The lonely bus stop. The wind was cold on the empty space station. Dust swirled on the metal floor. Lights blinked above, but most of them were old and broken. One flickered again and again, like it couldn't make up its mind. Vera sat alone on a long bench. She hadn't moved in hours. Behind her was a large glass wall. Outside it, nothing but stars. Black space. Silent and endless. She was waiting, but she didn't know if the bus, a space transport, would ever come. Her hands were thin. Her long purple coat was dirty. Her silver eyes looked tired. She had not spoken to anyone in 6 days. Every few hours, a ship arrived. A few aliens stepped off. Some walked past her quickly, their eyes cold. Others turned their heads, avoiding her like she was a bad smell. She didn't blame them. Not anymore. There was a small vending machine nearby. She had no credits left. She had eaten the last bite of food 2 days ago. She was trying not to think about it. She wasn't sure if she was waiting for a ship or waiting to die. The sound of metal boots echoed on the floor. Another person was coming. She didn't look. She had learned not to get her hopes up. The steps stopped. Someone sat beside her. This was strange. No one sat near her. Not ever. She looked. It was a human man. He looked about 30. He had brown hair, short and messy. His face was a little dirty, like he had just come from outside. His uniform was military, but not fancy. Worn. Scratched. He looked at her and smiled. Vera blinked. The man took off his backpack and placed it between his feet. Then he pulled something out, a sandwich wrapped in clear plastic. He held it toward her. "You hungry?" he asked. His voice was friendly, calm, like he was talking to an old friend. Vera froze. Had he not seen the warning signs? The red notices above the benches. The security drone that passed every hour, flashing messages like, "Do not approach subject 17K. High risk. Avoid contact." She said nothing. He looked at her again. "You look like you haven't eaten in a while." She turned her head away. "Go. You don't want to sit here." "Why not?" he asked, not moving. "They'll scan your ID. You'll get a fine. Or worse." He shrugged. "Let them. I've been fined before." She looked at him, surprised. He smiled again. "I'm Mark. Just got off the wrong ship. Took a nap. Woke up in the wrong system." He laughed softly. "Can't believe I ended up here." He offered the sandwich again. Vera slowly reached out and took it. Her fingers were shaking. She didn't open it right away. She stared at it, like it might vanish. "You didn't read the signs?" she asked. "Nope," Mark said. "Didn't even see them." She looked at him for a moment, then down at the sandwich. She opened it slowly, carefully. It was just bread, some kind of meat, and a slice of yellow cheese. It smelled warm. She took a small bite, then another, then a third. Tears burned in her eyes. She didn't want them to come, but they did. Mark didn't say anything. He just sat quietly and looked out the glass window at the stars. She finished the sandwich. "Thank you," she whispered. "No problem." A silence sat between them for a while, but it didn't feel cold. It felt okay. "Why are you really here?" she asked. "I told you." "Wrong stop." "No, I mean, why are you still here?" "You gave the sandwich. You could leave now." He shrugged. "There's no transport until morning. Might as well have company." "You don't know me." "True," he said, "but I'm sitting here anyway." She looked at him. "Aren't you afraid of me?" "Should I be?" "Yes." He smiled again. "Then I'll take my chances." Far above them, a red drone buzzed by. It paused midair. A scanner blinked blue. Then it lit up red and beeped. "Warning. Human subject 4239. You are in proximity of 17K. Step away immediately." Mark looked up at the drone and waved. High. The drone hovered for a moment, then flew off. He leaned back and sighed. Well, that was rude. Vera stared at him. You really don't care. Mark looked at her. His face was calm, his eyes kind. I care, he said. I just don't judge people before I talk to them. She didn't know what to say. No one had said that to her in years. Maybe never. For the first time in days, her shoulders relaxed. Just a little. She looked at him and said, You're strange. He grinned. Thanks. I try. The human who didn't know her past. Mark stretched his arms above his head and leaned back on the bench. The space around them was quiet, too quiet. Only the faint hum of the broken lights filled the silence. Vera watched him from the corner of her eye. He was still sitting there like nothing was wrong, like she wasn't one of the most feared names in half the galaxy. Most aliens didn't dare stand within 10 meters of her. But this human, he had offered her a sandwich and a smile like she was just another traveler waiting for the next ship. Maybe he was stupid, or maybe he was just different. You're not from around here, are you? Vera asked, breaking the silence. Nope. Originally from Earth, Mark said, glancing at her. But I've been stationed all over. Spent the last 6 months on the frontier line. Now I'm just trying to get home. Why this route? She asked. No one uses this transport anymore. I didn't choose it, Mark said. Transport glitched. I boarded a military cargo ship. Took a nap. Woke up here. You're lost, she said. He smiled. Very. For a moment, Vera felt something strange, a flicker of amusement. It had been a long time since she'd smiled. She didn't now either. But it was close. She looked out at the stars again. I thought humans avoided this part of the galaxy, she said. Most do. We hear stories, scary ones, about war zones, pirates, monsters. He looked at her and tilted his head. You one of those? She didn't answer. He raised his eyebrows but didn't push her. Then he asked, What about you? Where are you going? I don't know, she said quietly. I just want to get off this station. No family waiting for you? He asked. She shook her head slowly. He was quiet after that. The silence stretched, but it didn't feel heavy this time. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered and changed. A dull red glow filled the station. A robotic voice spoke from hidden speakers. Security scan in progress. Please remain seated. A drone floated down from the ceiling, scanning each person in the room. There were only 2, Vera and Mark. The drone stopped in front of them. It flashed green at Mark. Subject 4239. Human. Military. Status. Active. No violations. Then it turned to Vera. Its lights turned red. Subject 17K. Classified. Threat level. High. Do not engage. Mark looked up at the drone. Do I look like I'm engaging? The drone hovered for a second. Then it flew away. See, Mark said. Still alive. Vera turned her head away. You really don't care, do you? I care, he said. I just don't know what I'm supposed to care about. She paused. You don't know who I am. He shook his head. Should I? Vera stared at him, her eyes narrow. You didn't search the ID when the drone called me 17K. Mark shrugged. Didn't feel like it. Everyone in this sector knows that name. Maybe I'm just behind on my reading, he said, smiling. She stared at him for a long time. Finally, she said, I used to be a captain. A commander, actually. For the Zeranti fleet. Mark blinked. Zeranti? You were part of the old war. She nodded. Wait, aren't they the ones who? Yes, she said. The ones who burned colonies. Destroyed whole planets. Conquered moons. Mark frowned. But the war ended years ago. The Zeranti Empire fell. The leaders were executed or exiled. I wasn't one of them, Vera said. Then why are you here? Why are you still marked as a threat? She looked down at her hands. Because I didn't follow orders, she said. I disobeyed command. I stopped my fleet from attacking a refugee ship full of children. My own people called me a traitor. Mark's expression changed. The casual look on his face faded. They erased my records, took my rank, took everything, she said softly. Silence. Then she added, now no side wants me. My own kind hunts me. And the ones I try to protect, they see me as part of the enemy. Mark leaned forward, elbows on knees. That's why the warning's still active, he asked. They never cleared your name. She shook her head. He sighed. Then he said, that's insane. She looked at him. You think I'm lying? No, Mark said. I think the galaxy sucks sometimes. You tried to save lives, and now you're stuck here, alone. That's not justice. He pulled something out of his backpack, a small metal flask, and handed it to her. Water, he said. Fresh. She stared at it. No one had looked her in the eye in years. No one had trusted her with even a sip of water. And now this human, this random stranger, was treating her like a person. She took the flask with slow hands and drank. Thank you, she whispered. Mark gave a small nod. You're welcome, Commander. She let out a soft, bitter laugh. Don't call me that. I'm not a commander anymore. Fine, he said. Vera, then. She looked up, surprised. You know my name. I heard the drones say it. There was a pause. Then a soft voice from the station intercom spoke. Attention. Incoming transport, Route C-19. Arrival in 1 hour. Mark stood up and stretched again. That might be my ticket out of here. Vera stood too, her voice tight. You should take it, before the system changes its mind. He looked at her seriously. What about you? He asked. She looked away. Before she could answer, another message interrupted the quiet. This time, it wasn't from the station. A different voice played on the intercom. Cold, robotic, military. Attention all personnel. Subject 17K detected at Outpost Station 17. Last known location, Bench Sector 3. Engagement team en route. Do not approach. Termination authorized. Mark turned to her slowly. Vera, he said, eyes wide. What does that mean? She stared at the speaker. It means, she whispered, they're coming to kill me. Her terrible crime. The red lights blinked across the hallway ceiling. The voice still echoed from the speakers. Subject 17K identified. Termination authorized. Do not engage without support. Vera didn't move. Mark stepped in front of her without thinking, shielding her with his body. Are they serious? Yes, Vera said. Her voice was calm, like she had known this would happen for a long time. They always meant to kill me. I'm just easier to find now. How long do we have? Mark asked. She checked the corner display screen. 10 minutes. Maybe less. Mark grabbed his backpack. Then let's go. Vera didn't move. There's nowhere to go. They'll block the exits. Mark looked at her. Then we don't run. We hide. There's always a way. Vera gave him a long look. Why are you helping me? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, because I believe you. And for a moment, the weight on Vera's chest got a little lighter. 6 years ago, planet Cornus Ivy. The sky was burning. Vera stood at the command deck of the Zeranti war cruiser, the Black Rift, her hands shaking. Fire blazed across the screen in front of her. Buildings collapsed, sirens screamed, and alien civilians ran in all directions. The order had been clear. Destroy the planet's last city. Leave nothing behind. Her soldiers waited for her command. Target locked, said her second in command. Just say the word, Commander. But Vera saw something different on the screen. Children. A whole transport full of them. Too small to run fast. their hands grabbing each other in fear. The ship they were boarding wasn't military. It was a medical vessel. No weapons, no threat. Her heart pounded. Her head told her, "Obey, obey, obey." But her gut screamed, "No." "Commander?" her officer asked again. "Hold fire," she said. "Excuse me." "I said hold fire." Her voice cut through the silence like a blade. Her officer looked stunned. "That's a direct order from Central Command. You can't." "I won't shoot unarmed children," Vera said. "If you fire, I will stop you myself." No one moved. She turned to face them all. "I'll take responsibility. But if any of you fire on that ship, you'll answer to me first." The children's ship took off, slowly, barely escaping the blast radius. Present time. Station 17. Mark and Vera ran down the maintenance stairs. The security lights flashed behind them. A robotic voice shouted directions to the soldiers. Sector 3 confirmed. Suspect is moving. Intercept at lower level. They reached a narrow hallway filled with broken supply crates. Vera stopped. She crouched beside a wall panel and pulled it open. Inside, a small tunnel led downward into darkness. "You've done this before," Mark said. "I've been hunted before," she replied. They crawled inside, one after the other. The panel clicked shut behind them. Inside the tunnel, it was pitch dark. Mark turned on a small flashlight. It bounced off the metal walls, revealing tight turns and dripping wires. "So," he whispered, "what happened after you let the kids escape?" Vera didn't look at him. She just kept crawling. "They arrested me, took my rank. They called it treason. Said I disobeyed a sacred order. Didn't anyone defend you?" "Some tried. Most were too scared." She sighed. "I had been loyal for years. Led dozens of missions, saved lives. But one act of mercy, that erased everything." Mark crawled behind her quietly for a while. Then he asked, "Do you regret it?" "No," she said without hesitation. "If I had to choose again, I'd do the same." Mark nodded. "Then you're better than they ever were." They reached a wider section of the tunnel. Vera pulled open another panel and climbed into a dusty chamber. Old wires ran along the walls. It looked like a power control room, long forgotten. She sat down heavily against a crate. Mark sat next to her. The air was warm and still. The silence was thick, but peaceful. "They'll still find you," Mark said. "I know. But you saved lives." "I know that too." He looked at her. "You ever wonder what happened to the kids?" She didn't answer at first. Then she said, "Every day." Mark reached into his backpack and pulled out a small round object. "Here," he said. "Something to help us breathe better down here." He clicked a button, and the air purifier lit up, humming softly. Vera looked at it with quiet surprise. "You carry a lot of strange things," she said. "I'm human," Mark said with a shrug. "We like being ready for everything." A pause. Then he added, "You saved kids, so I'll save you." She turned to look at him, really look at him. No fear in his eyes. No doubt. Just kindness. That was the most dangerous thing of all in this galaxy. Kindness. Above them, heavy boots slammed against metal floors. The soldiers had arrived. "Scan the exits. She's hiding in maintenance. We have permission to kill on sight." Back in the tunnel, Vera whispered, "We can't stay here forever." Mark smiled. "Nope. But we'll figure something out." Suddenly, a panel above them creaked. A beam of light shone down into the chamber. Mark grabbed her arm. "Run," he said. But she didn't move. She pulled something out of her coat, an old dusty card. She slammed it into the side of the crate. Click. Hiss. The crate opened, and inside was a hidden elevator. Mark's eyes widened. She stepped inside and pulled him with her. "Where does it go?" he asked. "Down." "How far down?" She looked at him. To something I left behind a long time ago. The elevator closed and dropped into darkness. The bus that never comes. The elevator dropped fast. Vera stood still, her coat swaying in the wind made by the speed. Mark held the side rail, his knuckles white. "How far does this thing go?" he asked. Vera didn't answer right away. "Far enough," she finally said. The walls outside the elevator glowed with faint blue lights. Old writing, alien symbols, glimmered in the darkness. Strange markings, almost forgotten by time. Mark narrowed his eyes. "This station is way bigger than I thought." "It used to be a fortress," Vera said, "before it became a stop for transport buses." The elevator slowed. With a deep clunk, it came to a stop. The doors opened. A rush of stale, warm air hit their faces. They stepped into a wide underground chamber. The ceiling stretched high above them, covered in old hanging cables. The walls were made of stone and steel mixed together. Half natural cave, half machine. Faded lights blinked weakly along the edges. Dust lay thick across the floor, untouched for years. "What is this place?" Mark asked, walking slowly behind her. "It was a command bunker," Vera said, "during the war." She pointed to the far wall, where a massive symbol was burned into the stone. A sharp silver triangle with a black sun inside. "The Zeranti High Command," she said. "Only elite officers had access to this level." Mark whistled. "You were elite, huh?" "Long time ago." They moved through the tunnels. Doors lined the hall, sealed tight. One door hissed open as Vera walked past it, her presence still triggering ancient recognition systems. Inside were broken chairs, shattered glass, and old power cells. Mark picked up a small badge off the floor. "This place looks like it was abandoned in a hurry." "It was," Vera said. "After I was arrested, the station became useless. My clearance shut it all down. No one wanted to be connected to me." They stepped into a large round room. A huge table sat in the middle, covered in dust. On the far side stood a display wall, black now, but once used to give orders to fleets across the stars. Vera walked up to the wall. She placed her hand on it. Nothing happened. She frowned. "Systems dead." Mark stepped beside her. "Let me try something." He opened his backpack and pulled out a battery cell. "You carry a power cell?" Vera asked, surprised. "I'm human," he said with a grin. "We hoard stuff. Also, I'm an engineer when I'm not getting lost." He connected the cell to the wall's interface panel. Sparks jumped. Then the screen lit up. The room came alive. The lights turned on. Machines hummed. The wall screen displayed a rotating planet, data flashing across it. The room had power again. Vera looked at him. "You're more useful than I expected." "I get that a lot." Suddenly, a voice filled the room. "Welcome back, Commander Vera." Mark froze. Did that voice just? "It remembers me," Vera said. "Old systems still think I'm in command." "Creepy," Mark muttered. "Necessary," Vera replied. She moved to the center of the table. A panel slid open. Inside, a metal case. She opened it. Mark stepped closer. Inside was a suit of armor. But not just any armor. Sleek, dark, covered in strange designs. It looked like it had a mind of its own. "This was yours?" Mark asked. Vera nodded. "Custom built. Only 3 of these exist. The last time I wore it was the day I refused to destroy that refugee ship." Mark looked at the suit, then at her. "Are you going to wear it again?" Vera stared at the armor for a long time. "I don't want to fight," she said. "I just wanted to leave this place quietly." "Well," Mark said, "quiet isn't working." A loud bang echoed above them. The elevator they had used had stopped responding. Then came another sound. Thump, 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 heavy footsteps. Mark drew his small weapon. "They're coming." Vera walked calmly to the corner of the room and tapped a hidden button on the wall. A second door opened behind them, revealing a narrow tunnel with rails. A small transport cart stood on it. "We can't win here," Vera said. "But we can go deeper." "Deeper?" Mark asked, stepping inside. "There's something even older under this place," she said. "Something they didn't erase." The cart took them further down, into silence. The lights turned red as they went lower. The air became cooler. The tunnel curved into a massive underground chamber, bigger than anything above. As the cart stopped, Mark stood slowly, looking around in awe. The room was circular, tall, covered in stone pillars that reached into darkness above. And in the center stood a single black cube, floating a few inches off the ground. "What is that?" he asked. Vera walked slowly toward it. "The last thing I ever protected." She placed her hand on the side. The cube glowed. A map appeared above it, showing star systems, planets, and coordinates. Mark stepped closer. "What am I looking at?" "Proof," Vera said, "of everything they try to hide." She pointed at one blinking symbol. "That refugee ship I saved. It wasn't the only one. There were hundreds, thousands, secret records, hidden attacks. The war wasn't just conquest. It was slaughter." "And this proves it?" Mark asked. "Yes. Then why haven't you shown anyone?" "Because no one listens to a ghost." Suddenly, the cube turned red. A loud alarm echoed through the room. "Intruders detected. Lower level breached." "They're tracking us," Mark said. "No," Vera said, eyes wide. "They're already here." Back in the command bunker above, armored soldiers moved quickly through the halls. Their leaders stopped in front of the display wall. A tall alien with sharp gray skin and black armor. He looked at the screen and growled. "Find her. The traitor must not leave this station." Down below, Vera turned to Mark. "I can send this data," she said, "if I get a signal." "Then we need to get you to a transmitter," Mark said. "There's only one left," she replied. "But it's above ground, on the roof." Mark looked at her. "So," he said, "we climb." She nodded. Then she reached for the armor case she had brought with her. And for the first time in 6 years, she put it on. Down into the tunnels. The armor clicked into place with a low hum. Vera stood tall. Her suit hugged her frame like it remembered her body. Thin plates moved with her muscles. Dark metal shimmered across her chest. A glowing mark, once feared across war zones, lit up on her shoulder. Mark stepped back. "Whoa." She turned her head. Her silver eyes shone behind the half-helmet. "Still think I'm just some woman at a bus stop?" Mark smiled. Not even a little. He grabbed his tool bag and rechecked his weapon. His hands moved fast, but his eyes kept glancing toward the tunnel behind them. Footsteps were getting closer, louder, and heavier. Above them, the invaders entered the old command chamber. 10 soldiers in dark exosuits fanned out. Their leader scanned the room. He touched the command table. It was still warm. "She was here minutes ago," he said. Another soldier checked the wall display. They activated a transport cart. "Tracking now." The leader raised his hand. "Seal the exits. Bring the shock units. Do not let her surface." He paused. Then added, "Kill the human." Back in the lower chamber, Vera reached into the cube. It responded only to her touch. She pulled out a long silver rod, smooth, pulsing with dim blue light. As she gripped it, it expanded, becoming a full staff with twin plasma blades on both ends. Mark blinked. "Okay, that's new." "This is older than my armor," Vera said. "Built before the war. Before we forgot what we were." Mark looked at the map still floating above the cube. "We can't send the data from down here." "No," she said. "The cube's signal is too weak. But if I reach the roof beacon, you can expose them." Vera nodded. "Everything. The lies. The war. The betrayal. Let's do it." They ran through the ancient tunnels, twisting paths, and broken bridges. Vera moved like lightning. Her armor made no sound. She had trained for war her entire life, but now she moved for a different reason. Not conquest, not revenge, but truth. Mark followed close behind, panting, eyes scanning ahead. "How far is the surface?" "5 levels up," she said. "There's a hidden lift in the old weapons bay." "Lifts still work." "We'll find out." They reached the bay. It was a wide dome-shaped room with large racks of broken weapons and half-buried crates. Dust and debris covered the floor. Vera found the old control panel and ripped it open. Wires sparked. Mark knelt beside her and began connecting a battery from his pack. "You carry 2 power cells?" Vera asked. "I like living," he said. "Call me crazy." The lift hummed to life. A metal door opened. "Get in," Vera said. They stepped inside. The lift groaned as it started rising. Level 1 passed. Level 2. Suddenly, the lift stopped with a loud bang. Vera drew her staff. "They're trying to block us." Mark opened the top hatch of the lift and climbed up. They jammed the track. "There's a clamp." He reached for his plasma cutter. Above them, they heard boots landing hard. Then a voice called down. "Vera, surrender now. The human will be spared." Mark looked down at her. "Do they mean that?" he asked. "No. Didn't think so." A grenade dropped into the lift. Without hesitation, Vera kicked it out before it could detonate. It exploded mid-air above the shaft, shaking the walls. Mark yanked the jammed clamp loose. The lift jolted and moved again. Fast. "Duck," he yelled, jumping back inside. The ceiling above exploded as soldiers rappelled down the shaft. Vera raised her staff. Plasma blades hissed to life. She jumped. In mid-air, Vera spun with impossible speed. Her staff slashed through armor. Sparks flew. Soldiers screamed. Mark aimed and fired his pulse weapon. 2 enemies fell before hitting the lift floor. The lift shook again, but didn't stop. When they finally reached the top, only Mark and Vera were standing. The doors opened to a rooftop platform. Cold wind hit their faces. Night sky above. Stars burned across the darkness. At the center of the platform stood an old, silent beacon tower. "This is it," Vera said, panting. Mark looked around. No one followed. "No," she said, "but they will." She ran to the beacon and opened its panel. Dust fell out. The controls were dead. Mark joined her, already reaching for his final power cell. "It's not enough," Vera said. "This beacon needs more energy." Mark smiled. "I've got one more trick." He opened his wrist console. Inside was a tiny red chip. "I wasn't just stationed at the front," he said. "I used to work beacon relays." He placed the chip inside the panel. The beacon shook, then lit up. A soft whine became a loud hum. It was working. Vera didn't hesitate. She pushed the cube data through. A beam of blue light shot into the sky, visible for hundreds of miles. The truth was out. Far above them, in orbit, a listening station picked up the signal. An operator stared at her screen in shock. "Is this real?" Another whispered, "It's her. She's alive." Across the galaxy, hidden files decrypted. Long-buried war crimes came to light. The name Commander Vera blinked across news feeds. And then, red alerts. Back on the roof, Vera stared at the sky. "They'll come for us now." Mark smiled, blood on his arm. "Let them." But then, the platform shook. A transport ship descended. Black and silver. No markings. Vera's eyes narrowed. "That's not a government ship." The ship landed. Its door opened. A tall alien woman stepped out, armor old but powerful. Her eyes locked onto Vera. "You're hard to find," the woman said. Vera didn't answer. The woman stepped forward. "I was one of the children you saved." Vera froze. "I grew up thinking you were a myth." But the stories, they were real. She placed something in Vera's hand. A communication chip. You've got allies now, across dozens of worlds. Mark raised an eyebrow. Fan club. Vera smiled, for real this time. Maybe. The transport opened wider. Come with me, the woman said. There's more to do. Mark looked at Vera. Well, she stared at the stars. The bus she waited for never came. But maybe that was the point. She turned to him, ready to leave this place. He nodded. Anywhere with you, Commander. She laughed softly. Don't call me that. They stepped aboard. The doors closed behind them. The ship rose into the sky, leaving the station behind. Forever. Enemies above, secrets below. The stars outside the ship's window burned like tiny fires in a sea of black. Mark leaned against the wall of the transport, his arm wrapped in cloth, stained with blood from the rooftop fight. He stared out quietly. The hum of the ship's engines filled the silence. Across from him, Vera sat with her eyes closed. Her armor had small cracks now, and her breathing was slow but steady. The glowing symbol on her shoulder had dimmed. They had survived, but they were not safe. The woman who had rescued them stood at the front of the transport. Her name was Kelra, and she was no ordinary soldier. Vera had seen her before, but as a child, half hidden behind a broken crate, her small hands shaking as fire rained from the skies. Now she wore armor, and a face hardened by years of war. You saved me, Kelra had said on the rooftop. Now I'll protect you. But trust didn't come easily to Vera. Not anymore. Mark limped to the front. Where are we going? Kelra answered without turning around. To the hidden colony. Deep underground. Not on any map. He raised an eyebrow. And you just happened to be close enough to save us. Kelra smiled faintly. We've been watching Vera for months. Waiting. Vera opened her eyes. Why wait? Because, Kelra said, not everyone wanted you found. The ship descended through layers of cloud and smoke. Below them was a dark, rocky planet. No cities, no lights, just endless shadow. They landed near a cliff. A door in the mountain opened silently. The ship entered. Inside was a massive underground cavern. It looked like an ancient city buried beneath time. Faint lights glowed from strange towers. Aliens of all kinds walked through narrow paths, each one silent, alert. Some wore armor, others wore rags, but all had one thing in common. They had no place left in the galaxy. Mark stepped out and whispered, "What is this place?" Kelra answered softly, "The ones who saw the truth, the ones they called traitors." They walked into a round stone building near the center. Vera stopped at the door. Inside was a council room. 7 chairs, 6 occupied. Aliens of different shapes and colors. Some old, some young, all watching her with careful eyes. The one in the center spoke first. A tall alien with blue skin and no mouth. His voice came through a speaker around his neck. "We saw your signal, Vera. The cube data, the war crimes, the truth." Vera nodded slowly. "I had to show the galaxy." Another council member, a red-skinned alien with sharp eyes, leaned forward. "But why now? After all these years?" "Because people are still dying for lies," Vera said. Mark stood quietly near the wall. He could feel the tension in the room. Respect, fear, doubt. Another council member asked, "And the human? What's his role in all this?" Vera looked at Mark. "He helped me when no one else would. When the galaxy saw a monster, he saw a person." The blue-skinned leader nodded. "Then he stays." After the meeting, Kelra led them to a quiet room. "Rest," she said. "You'll need it." Vera sat on the edge of the bed, her armor half removed. Mark watched her. "You okay?" "I don't know," she said honestly. "I thought I wanted peace, but maybe peace was never an option." He sat beside her. You were made to fight, he said. But now you fight for something better. She smiled faintly. I fight for the truth. He leaned back. Good enough for me. That night, the lights in the colony dimmed. But deep beneath the city, in a secret chamber, something stirred. A tall figure stepped into the dark. A shadow with eyes that glowed faint gold. He tapped a small device. A silent signal left the planet. Not everyone in the colony was loyal. The next morning, Vera woke early. She suited up, her armor recharged and restored. Calora met her outside. There's someone you should meet, she said. They walked through twisting halls until they reached a narrow bridge hanging over a glowing chasm. At the end was a cell. Inside sat an old alien, gray-skinned, tired, his body thin. Vera froze. General Revik, she whispered. The man who had once been her commander. The man who had ordered her to fire on the children. He looked up, eyes dull. I knew you'd survive, he said. Vera didn't answer. He stood slowly, gripping the bars. You were always too soft, Vera. That's why you lost everything. No, she said. I lost everything because I listened to my conscience. He laughed. And now look where you are. Hiding in caves, surrounded by exiles. She leaned closer. At least I can sleep at night. Revik's face twisted. You think the galaxy cares about truth. They want safety, power, control. That's all. She stepped back. You're wrong, she said. And soon, they'll know it. As they walked back, Calora whispered, he's not just a prisoner. He's bait. Bait? Vera asked. For who? Calora looked around cautiously. We've intercepted messages. Someone inside the colony sent a signal. A betrayal. Vera clenched her fists. So they're coming. Calora nodded. Yes, the ones who still want you dead. And they're coming fast. Meanwhile, in orbit above the planet, a massive cruiser blinked into view. Dark, silent, armed. Inside, a captain stood before a crew. Prepare the drop units, she ordered. Capture or kill the traitor. Burn everything else. The ship began descent. Back in the colony, alarms rang. Calora burst into the council room. They're here. Mark ran to Vera. What do we do? Vera looked up at the cavern ceiling, then around at the frightened people. We fight. The colony turned into a fortress. Old weapons were pulled from storage. Barricades were built. Children were hidden in the deepest tunnels. And Vera, she stood on the main platform, armor gleaming, staff in hand. She looked at the scared faces around her. I'd once followed orders without question, she said loudly. But I lost myself. She stepped forward. Now I fight for something more. For you. For the truth. For the future they try to erase. The crowd stood straighter. A spark returned to their eyes. Mark came to her side. You ready? He asked. She nodded. More than ever. The bus stopped that changed everything. The sky above the hidden colony cracked open with thunder. But it wasn't rain. It was war. Massive black ships pushed through the clouds, silent and slow like sharks circling wounded prey. Light from the engines painted the cliffside red. Hundreds of drop pods launched from their bellies, falling like meteors. Inside the tunnels below, families huddled together. Children cried. Elderly aliens whispered quiet prayers in lost languages. But above them, Vera stood tall. Her armor glowed again. Fully awake. Fully alive. At her side stood Mark, bruised, tired, bleeding, but refusing to leave. And on the platform, the outcast colony prepared to defend themselves. Calora gave orders quickly. Squads on both ends. Hold the gates. Don't let them corner us. Mark checked his weapon. They'll come fast. They'll expect fear, Vera said. Let's give them fire. The first wave of enemy soldiers hit the outer ridge. Explosions rocked the cavern mouth. Stone cracked and fell. But Vera didn't wait. She charged into the smoke. Her plasma staff spun like a storm. Blades sliced through armor. Sparks flew. One attacker swung at her. She ducked and swept his legs out from under him. Another aimed a blaster. Mark shot him first. Behind them, the rebels followed. Once scared, now fierce. They weren't soldiers, but they were survivors. And survivors fight differently. They fight to live. On the cliffs, the enemy captain watched through her visor. "Target 17K is leading the charge," she said coldly. "Orders, ma'am." The captain smiled. "Crush them." Deeper in the colony, Calora ran to the control hub. The beacon Vera had used earlier still glowed. Its message had reached dozens of systems, but now the enemy was jamming it. Calora typed fast. "We need to boost the signal again," she said. A voice answered behind her. "I can help." She turned. Mark stood in the doorway, arm bleeding, holding the wire in one hand and a burned-out circuit board in the other. He smiled. "Got one more trick." Outside, Vera moved like lightning. Every hit was precise. Every motion controlled. But she was getting tired. One of the soldiers fired a shock net. It caught her leg. She fell hard, armor sparking. They surrounded her, guns raised. She breathed slowly. Then, boom, a blast knocked them back. Calora had arrived with backup. Vera pulled herself up. "Thanks," she said. Calora smirked. "You always fall down." "Only when it's dramatic." High above, the beacon pulsed again. Brighter. Stronger. Across the stars, news feeds flickered to life. Images of Vera's fight, her past, her truth, spread like wildfire. Protests began on peaceful planets. Old generals were questioned. Governments hesitated. The story of the woman from the bus stop had become something bigger than war. It had become a movement. In the colony, the enemy forces began to break. They had numbers. But Vera had something they didn't: hope. As the last wave arrived, the captain descended herself. Tall, cold, dressed in elite armor. She walked toward Vera with slow, deliberate steps. The battlefield fell quiet. "I was told to bring you back," the captain said, "dead or alive." Vera raised her staff. "Then you'll leave with nothing." "You're no hero," the captain said. "You're just a mistake." Vera didn't flinch. "So are you." They charged. The battle was fast and brutal. Metal clashed. Sparks filled the air. Vera dodged, blocked, struck. But the captain was trained. Faster than most, stronger than many. She knocked Vera back. "You can't win," the captain hissed. Vera stood again, chest rising and falling. "I already did." Behind her, the entire colony rose. Thousands of voices, ready to fight. Mark walked to her side, shoulder bleeding, weapon empty. But he still stood. Together. The captain looked at them all. And finally, she ran. The enemy ships pulled back. They didn't win. Not today. Hours later, the colony gathered in the central hall. The lights were dim. Smoke still drifted through the air. But the silence was peaceful, not fearful. Calora stood at the front. "The galaxy knows now," she said. "They saw the truth. We are not traitors. We are proof." Cheers echoed. But Vera stayed near the back, watching quietly. She didn't want praise. She just wanted peace. Mark found her outside, standing near the cliff's edge. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I think so." He looked out at the stars with her. "You know what," he said, "I only came here by mistake." She smiled. "You gave me a sandwich. That wasn't a mistake." He laughed softly. "Still surprised you took it." "I hadn't eaten in 2 days," she said. "But it wasn't the food that mattered. It was the first time someone looked at me, like I was human." Mark reached into his bag, pulled out a new sandwich. "Hungry?" he asked, grinning. She blinked. laughed, and took it. Weeks later, a new transport station opened above the colony. Clean, bright. The first ship arrived, and on a bench near the platform, a tall alien woman sat. Alone. She looked tired, nervous, lost. Mark walked over, sandwich in hand. He sat down beside her. "You hungry?" The woman looked at him with wide eyes. Vera stepped up beside him. Her armor was gone now. She wore simple clothes, peaceful ones, and she smiled. Because sometimes all it takes to change a galaxy is kindness. At a lonely bus stop,